Okay.
Anyhow, when we had the two women there, they would ask him questions, what happened. And they brought up that deal about this old Yalamont, I think his name was, wanted to come home. He said, we maybe be in trouble here. Well, then it seemed like it was a German and this game warden showed up in camp. And they got in camp, why, I don't know, I guess he started, I suppose maybe he was a little belligerent and showing his authority. And seemed like he tried to take the gun away from this Camille Paul, John Peter Paul's dad. And he wouldn't let him have it. And I don't know if that's when the game warden started to shoot. He shot Camille Paul, and this old Stewie and his son, Frank. In the deal, this Peyton was wounded, and John's mother grabbed the gun, and she ran over there and she finished off the game warden. So then she jumped on her horse, and there was another bunch up at Lindbergh Lake, right in there close. She knew they were camped in there, so she got on her horse, and this German tried to cut her off. He ran across, but she beat him past his turn. And she got into camp and told what happened. So I guess they moved the rest of them back to this other camp. Then the men, I think, this old O.U. Finley and his brother, and I don't know who the others was, they all went back to camp, and I believe they temporarily buried him there. Later on they went and got him and brought him back here. And in the interview, Mrs. Abraham she'd kind of hesitate and then tell what she knew. So after it was over, I took John's mother over at the house with me, and we had dinner. And while we was eating dinner, she said, you know, she forgot a lot of stuff. But whenever they'd ask John's mother anything, it was just like yesterday. She never hesitated a bit to tell what happened. So that's about all I could tell you about that. And then I think little Mary whispering Charlie, old Stewie's daughter, I think she gave him a lot more dope from her mother when they put on that play. I don't know, it seemed like the title of his somewhat when the grass grows or the river flows or something like that.
Do you remember, did that event have any effect of deterring Indians from traveling over to the Swan to hunt after that?
No, some of them went, but it was a kind of a bitter, dangerous thing, because after that, for a long time, especially them Crow Creek Indians, they just didn't want anything to do with the game warden. And I guess if another one had have bothered them in a year or two after that, I think they wouldn't have took any time. I think they'd start shooting and talked afterward, because it was pretty bitter there for a while. And turned out the Indian was right and the game warden was wrong. We were on our custom hunting ground given to us by the treaty. And Grand Joe and Ed Pichette, I think it was, they caught them down at Plains trapping beaver. They took them into court. So Ed Tunison, he was the Indian attorney for our tribe then on these claims. So he went to Thompson Falls. And I was living in a feller's home over there at Hot Springs by the name of Sorensen, and he was on the jury. And he listened to it all. He says when Tunison got down there, he started to cite the treaty and treaty rights the Indian had. He said, you never seen such a befuddled bunch of people. They never knew there was one there. And he said if that went to trial, he said the county never had a chance in the world. But in the meantime, I think Ed Pichette died. So it finally was dropped. And from then on, why the jurisdiction, different places began to show up. Now, like I was packing up at Star Meadows from towards Stryker, up towards Eureka. I packed in that country. A lot of moose in there. I didn't realize it. Nobody else did. But we had treaty rights to hunt them there. And that never showed up the last few years.
When was the case with Ed Pichette?
God, I can't remember when that was. That must have been in the 40s.
Okay. Well, I remember you telling me about the other folks I should go talk to about Kerr Dam. But what little you do know about it or encounters you have with it, I'd like to have on the video. And well, I was just going to see if you could first tell me when you remember first hearing about Kerr Dam.
What?
When you remember first hearing about it.
Well, the first I knew of the dam was when they started that Newell Tunnel. Cabile Dupuy, I don't know if he was the chairman of that first old-time committee. I think they had a name for him, Committee of 9 or 5 or something like that. When they started to do that, he went down there and ordered them off in there. And it didn't stick. So I never knew much about it then until I was on the council, first one on the council, and that's when they come to the tribe and said they wanted to build the Kerr Dam. So then we agreed to the whole thing, that they go ahead and drill, do what they wanted with Indian employment. So then they got ready to work, so they had to have a mediator. That's when they got Archie McDonald, my cousin. He went up there and he was a mediator between power and the Indians while the dam, until it was finished. And unions come in twice to try to organize them. And a bunch of them come to Archie one night and said they're going to have a meeting. They said, shall we go to it? He said, yeah. He says, good. Go find out what they got to say. So they went and listened to the organizer, and he didn't get much help. A little while he had another meeting. I think he only had about 2, and then he quit. So then it was built with a non-union outfit. And lots of Indians worked there. A lot of whites worked there. And whenever argument or something come up, why, they'd call in Archie. And I met a fellow who was assistant commissioner from Washington by the name of Diker. He come to agency one day, just about time it was over. And he said that mediator done one of the most wonderful jobs was ever done on a construction job. He said, you know, that dam was built with all that help, everything there, and they said they never had one bad upset there while it was going on. And I don't think they got a record of that at the agency. And then when they built the third unit, why, he went back and worked for him again.
Why do you think that the Indians didn't want a union?
Huh?
Why do you think the Indian workers at the dam didn't want a union?
Didn't want a union?
Yeah.
Oh, hell, if they'd got a union, they'd been all shot to hell. They'd have brought in their own outfits, and what would the Indians done? That was just like about the same time they're putting that water tower at the agency. And got here a couple of union guys come in and try to stop them, I guess. So they told him to go and see the superintendent. Shotwell was superintendent then. They come in and told them what they wanted. And they had 2 rock pillars there where you went in the gate. So he said to them guys, he said, you see that rock pillars in that gate there? They said, yeah. He says, when you stepped inside of that, you was off in your territory. He says, this is federal ground, and we don't want them here, and they ain't gonna be here. So they left.
Do you know what the conditions were like at the dam for workers, what the working conditions were like up there?
Oh, they had all kinds of makeshift camps. So I guess some had a lodge or 2 there, some had little tents. And my niece that lives at Polson now, Ruth Whiting, that's Ann Whiting's mother. My mother said her and Sis, I think, went up to visit her. So she said Ruthie had the most pitiful little old camp there, but they were hanging tough in there. And then some built themselves little shacks. Then, of course, they had bunkhouses for a lot of the men.
Did you ever hear any stories about any of the accidents that occurred at the dam while they were building it, or?
Well, only the one was when they had the big slide, when they killed all that bunch. Why, Archie told me about it because he had to identify all them fellers. And I guess there was no warning or anything when the slide gave away. Then when Joe Mathias got killed up there, why, I think Archie said he was in a ditch, and that caved in on him, I think he said, above his waist. And before they could get him out, why, I guess it just crushed him in there. That's about all I know. And then John Molitor was up on the side, jackhammer work, and some guys way up on top there, and they let a steel get away from him, and when it stood off and come down, and John was in the right spot, and it hit him right in the top of the head and killed him. Then we had two, I think it was two. One of them was married to his granddad. Did you ever hear him say anything, talk about old Rogers when he got killed there at them in that runaway car? Flat car, no, it was a coal car, I think. That was Rosie's old man.
Oh, I've never heard.
Yeah, Warhoop's mother.
Oh.
Rogers, I think they called him. He's a little Mexican. And I don't know, I think there was another one with him, and this car got away and come down off in that hill. It was a coal car, and they got killed in there. That's about all I know. Then there was I think Archie said a white guy went off at the end of a tramway with a wheelbarrow, but they never did find him.
Did the bigger accidents like those slides have any effect on the rest of the workers?
No, I guess the only thing was, I think they may put in more safety devices. The chances are, I never knew it, but they must have had guys up there that was watching for them things, and maybe that's all they done. And I think all their hospital and doctor care was handled through quite a bit of the pulse in the hospital and stuff. I think Doc Brooks at Ronan was one of the doctors they went to, too.
Were you familiar with that place on the river before they built the dam there?
Not very. I was there once, I think. And then we was there before they started to work, when they were starting to put the crew in there, and we walked across the river on a cable bridge, footbridge. That's about all I know about it, but my Aunt Maggie that lived in Narada, when they were still here at the old Hudson Bay Post, she said every once in a while they'd go up there and camp. And she said that was a great place for catching big native trout. Said there used to be a lot of them there. That's about all I know about it.
You never heard any stories about spirits at that place, or?
Huh?
You never heard any story about spirits at that place or
No,
things of that
no.
nature? Uh-huh. Well, about those fish, could you tell me something about what the effect was on fishing of their building dams all through this country?
Oh, that's a known fact, the damage they done. When they built Cooley Dam, Kettle Falls was one of the greatest Indian salmon grounds there was. My Aunt Dixon married my uncle. She used to have a big picture there, showed the Kettle Fall. And that's where the Indians would get their salmon. And when the dam was put in, I don't know if the Colvilles was asleep or what happened, but they never got a dime out of it. Down them tributaries like San Puel River and them, they were quite places for salmon to spawn. I'd go up in there and catch salmon. Well, they built the dam, and that took all that away. Up there at Kettle Falls, you can't see where the falls was. Then down there on the Chief Joseph Dam at Bridgeport, the Okanagan River come into the Columbia above that. Well, right, I think down putting it at the mouth of the the Okanagan, I think there's a place they call Mons pretty close there. That was a salmon fishing place. When I put in a dam there, that killed all that. And just like Tom